Last summer, I pulled onions out of my test bed that averaged just over a pound each, with the biggest ones tipping the scale at nearly 2 pounds. Softball sized, the same variety I'd been growing for 15 years out of the same beds with sets from the hardware store averaged under 5 ounces. Same yard, same soil, same seasons, different method. I uncovered this method in an extension circular from 1929, the year of the stock market crash. I bought a faded reprint of it at an estate sale here in Black Mountain for $3. The circular was teaching home gardeners how to grow storage onions big enough to feed a family through the entire winter because the country was about to enter the Great Depression and most households were going to need exactly that. The conventional approach today is to drive to the hardware store in April, grab a mesh bag of onion sets, push them in the dirt, and hope. That gets you golf ball onions. The method from that circular gets you softball onions. The difference is not the soil, not the variety, not the season, it is the method. Stay with me to the end because I'm going to share the curing technique from the same circular that turns a 1 week harvest into 9 months of storage onions sitting in your basement. I want to be honest with you. I grew onions the wrong way for the first 15 years on this property. Every April I drove to the hardware store. Mesh bag of yellow sets, mesh bag of red. Pushed them in the dirt, watered when I remembered, pulled them up in July at golf ball size, and called it a harvest. Year after year, the same disappointment. Bulbs that fit in the palm of my hand at best. Plenty of them, but small. If you have been doing this, you are not alone. Most home gardeners grow onions from sets. The hardware stores stock them. They are easy, they sprout fast, but they are not the way to get a big onion. The 1929 circular knew that almost a century ago, and most modern gardeners never learn it. Here is what most gardeners do not know. In 1929, the country was on the edge of the Great Depression. The United States Department of Agriculture and the state extension services were publishing dozens of bulletins every year aimed at home growers. These were not commercial farming guides. These were survival manuals. The circular I found teaches a method for producing storage onions large enough that a single bulb could anchor a family meal. It is built around one piece of plant biology that almost nobody talks about today. After the war, when commercial seed companies and hardware stores started pushing onion sets to home gardeners, the older method got crowded out. Sets are convenient. Sets are profitable. They are also why your onions are small. There is no conspiracy here. There is just an industry whose business model points the other way. All right, let us keep going. Here is what you need to understand before you plant a single seed. Onions are day length sensitive. What I mean by that is onions only start forming a bulb when the day length hits a specific threshold. Below that threshold, the plant just keeps making leaves. Once daylight crosses the threshold, the plant converts the leaves it has into bulb. There are 3 categories. Short day onions need 10 to 12 hours of daylight to trigger bulbing. Intermediate day onions need 12 to 14. Long day onions need 14 to 16. If you live south of about 35 degrees north, which is the line between North Carolina and South Carolina, you grow short day onions. In the middle of the country, intermediate day, north of about 40 degrees north, the Iowa-Missouri line, long day. If you plant the wrong category for your latitude, the plant either bulbs too fast and stays tiny, or it never bulbs at all. This is the number one reason people fail with onions and have no idea why. Here in Zone 7A in the Western Carolina foothills, I grow intermediate day. My picks for size, candy, red candy apple, and Sierra Blanca. All 3 will hit softball size with the right method. Look up your latitude before you buy a single seed. Now let me show you exactly why sets do not work and what to do instead. Here is the science. A set is a small dormant onion bulb grown the previous year. When you plant it, it does not have to grow a new plant. It just has to wake up. That sounds like an advantage. It is not. Every onion is biennial. In its second year, what it wants to do is flower and make seed. So the set spends its energy trying to bolt, and the bulb you get is small and often split. A transplant is different. A transplant is a first-year onion grown from seed about 8 weeks earlier, the same way you start tomato seedlings. It is still in vegetative mode. All it wants to do is make leaves. And here is the part I wish someone had told me 20 years ago. every leaf an onion makes before the bulbing trigger becomes one ring of the bulb. 10 leaves before solstice, 10 ring onion. 13 leaves, 13 ring onion. The difference between a 5-ounce bulb and a 1-pound bulb is the difference between 8 leaves and 13 leaves at solstice. So your job is simple. Start from seed indoors 10 to 12 weeks before your last frost. Grow strong transplants. Get them in the ground as early as the soil can be worked. Every week of leaf growing time before the summer solstice is another ring of onion. Now, before I show you the bed prep, I want to share something. If what I am walking you through here is making sense and you are starting to see how much of yield is a measurement problem rather than a luck problem, the full system is in my book, Steve's 30-Day Maximum Yield Protocol. Chapter 3 covers soil chemistry through a chemistry teacher's lens, including the nutrient availability chart by pH that determines whether your onions can even pull the phosphorus and sulfur they need out of the soil. It is $17 at stevesgardenbooks.com. If you're on a phone or laptop, the link is in the description. If you're watching on the television, grab your phone and point it at the QR code on screen. Take your time. I will be right here. All right, let us keep going. Here is the bed prep that the 1929 circular taught and that most modern guides leave out. This is where the chemistry shows up. Onions need 3 things in big quantities: phosphorus for root and leaf development, potassium for sugar transport into the bulb, sulfur for the bulb itself, which is what gives an onion its bite. Without enough sulfur, the bulb stays small and bland. In the fall, dig a trench 8 inches deep along the row you will plant in spring. In the bottom, lay 2 inches of well-rotted manure or compost. Cover that with a 1/2-inch layer of wood ash. Wood ash is what every household had in 1929 because every house heated with wood or coal. It is roughly 5% potassium, 25% calcium, and carries the trace sulfur and micronutrients onions are starved for. Then add 1 cup of bone meal for every 10 linear feet of trench. Bone meal is your phosphorus. Then fill the trench back in. Let that bed sit through winter. The freeze-thaw cycle breaks down the bone meal and integrates the wood ash. The pH lifts to right around 6.5, where onions absorb sulfur and phosphorus best. When you transplant your seedlings in March, you are setting them into a bed that has been building exactly the chemistry an onion needs for 6 months. The transplants explode. 12 to 14 leaves by solstice is normal in a bed like this. One caution: do not use ash from pressure-treated wood, charcoal briquettes, or anything painted or stained. Clean hardwood ash only. Now here is the growing schedule that turns those transplants into softballs. In March, when soil temperature hits 40 degrees Fahrenheit 4 inches down, transplant your seedlings into the prepared bed. Space them 6 inches apart in the row and the rows 12 inches apart. The spacing matters. Onions crowded closer than 6 inches will not bulb up because the roots compete for sulfur and phosphorus at the depth where the bulb forms. In April and May, your job is to keep the bed evenly moist and absolutely weed-free. Onions have shallow root systems and they cannot outcompete a single weed. Mulch with 2 inches of clean straw between rows. The straw keeps weeds suppressed, holds moisture, and breaks down into nitrogen the leaves will use. Feed once in early May with a balanced fish emulsion at the rate on the bottle. Do not add nitrogen after May 15th. Nitrogen after that point puts the energy into more leaves at the cost of bulb development. When the summer solstice hits, around June 21st, watch your plants. The leaves should be tall, dark green, and at least 10 in number on each plant. That is the moment bulbing triggers. Stop fertilizing entirely. Cut back to deep watering every 5 to 7 days. In late July, the tops will start to yellow and fall over. Do not stake them. Do not water. Once 75% of the tops have fallen, stop watering completely and let the bulbs cure in the ground for 1 full week. Then lift them on a dry, sunny day. Brush off the soil. Do not wash them. You will be holding bulbs that fill your palm. Let me walk through the patterns I see when people try to grow big onions and end up with small ones. I made all of these myself. The first pattern is growing from sets. I covered this already, but it is worth saying again because it is the single biggest mistake. Sets bolt. Sets stay small. If you want big onions, you grow from seed transplants. The second pattern is planting too late. Most home gardeners wait until April or even May to put their onions out, the way they would tomatoes. By the time those plants get going, they have maybe 6 weeks before solstice triggers bulbing. 6 weeks of leaf growth equals a 6-ounce onion. You need to be transplanting as soon as the soil hits 40 degrees Fahrenheit, which in most of the country is mid to late March. The third pattern is over-fertilizing late. Folks see the tops looking yellow in late June and panic feed. That late nitrogen tells the plant to keep making leaves instead of bulbing. The yellow is the signal that bulbing has started. Stop feeding. The fourth pattern, and the one I made for years, is harvesting too early. People see the bulbs poking up out of the soil in early July and think they are ready. They are not. The bulb keeps growing for 2 to 3 weeks after it pushes above the surface. If you pull early, you are leaving 30% of the final weight in the ground. Wait for the tops to fall on their own. Now here is what I promised at the start. The curing technique from the same circular that turns a 1-week harvest into 9 months of storage onions. After you lift the bulbs on that dry, sunny day, do not wash them and do not cut the tops. Lay them out single layer on a screen or a piece of plywood somewhere shaded with strong airflow. A covered porch or a garage with the door open works perfectly. Leave them there for 2 full weeks. During those 2 weeks, the outer skin tightens, the neck dries down, and the bulb seals itself. That seal is what gives you 9 months of storage instead of 3 weeks. After 2 weeks, trim the dried tops to 1 inch and the roots flush. Store them in mesh bags in a cool, dry place around 50 degrees Fahrenheit. I have eaten onions from my July harvest the following April. Cured properly, they hold their flavor and texture all winter. That is how the 1929 circular kept families fed through the worst economic crisis in American history. All right, before I let you go, one more thing. What I shared today is one piece of a much bigger system. The full 30-day protocol is what took my plot from acceptable yields to 45 pounds of tomatoes off 3 plants. It is 115 pages, day by day, covering the 3-phase feeding calendar with specific amendment rates for each growth stage, the strategic pruning chapter that includes diagrams for tomato suckers and the 2-litre training system, and the troubleshooting chart for the 7 most common yield killers. $17 at stevesgardenbooks.com. Link in the description if you are on a phone or laptop. QR code on screen if you're watching on the television. If you're tired of decent results and you're ready to start measuring, that is the book for you. That is the trick. The right variety for your latitude. Seed transplants instead of sets, a fall prep trench bed, and patience until the tops fall on their own. Try 1 row this season and compare against your usual approach. All right, that is what I have for you today. I will see you in the next one.